all the finest warriors get their leather gears from Scabbard.com.
So not too long ago, I say that, it was about probably 8 months ago, this lady came up to me. She wanted to see me about making a harness, or not really even a harness. She ordered a sword and it came with a scabbard, but she didn't have any way to put the scabbard over her armor, so she wanted me to make something to secure it. After we got to planning it, we decided, you know what, we better make a new scabbard to go with it, because by the time I get this harness made, it's not going to fit the original scabbard and it'd make it look cheap. So we decided we needed to make the scabbard, or the sword thingy, to go with it. Here you see me, I cut out the straps. I actually didn't record myself cutting out the straps, so sorry. But I did record a lot of me stretching out the straps. The reason why I'm stretching them out, you want to kind of stretch them out before you get to work on them. That prevents further stretch in the future, because you don't want straps or belts or anything, bridle stuff. You don't want leather straps to stretch in the future. That's the whole thing. So now I cut them all down to size. I think I recorded myself. Yeah, here I am with the end cutter, cutting down the straps. Very cool. And yeah, I had already designed this scabbard, or this harness, or what have you, and I was just cutting them all out to size, punching out the holes. That's not snow, that's actually leather dust that I'm sanding off, because I'm actually skiving down those bits so that I can fold them down better and they lay better. Thanks, Nosferatu. So now I'm cutting out the groove by the edges of the leather straps in order to carve out the groove for the sewing. What that does is it literally makes a literal groove for that stitching to sit in, so that it's not just exposed to the elements, so that it doesn't get scratched by a thorn or whatever you rub up against in the wilderness. I'm gonna take a hammer and beat it down here later, and that's what really gets it to sit in that groove. I'm getting the edging ready by beveling those edges, and what that means is I'm taking that sharp little tool and I'm getting the corners off so I can go back here later and slick them down with the burnisher so I can get them nice and smooth. But yeah, I'm pretty self-indulgent. I record a lot of this when I'm doing these videos. I record a lot of the edge stuff, because that's pretty easy. And here's my cool freaking stamps that I ordered. I was pretty excited to use these. This is the first big project that I got to use these custom stamps. Oh, they're beautiful. Look at them. That red suede I done put in that box. Yeah, I guess I should really say this is the first big project I had ever had ordered, custom project. January was a big day, big month for Corpus Skeller. I had this, and then you'll see a couple of things here later that I had to do, a bunch of big custom projects. Here you see me, I'm dyeing the leather. You saw me wet the leather before I dyed. This is an oil-based dye, so having a bit of casing on can help to kind of get a more consistent coat down on the oil base, because that oil sits on that water and it gives you more time before that dye soaks into the leather. because it's like a highlighter on paper. It's almost instantaneous when you try to dye leather, so it's good to have a bit of a resist. You can see me here, I'm buffing the leather after I applied an acrylic seal. What this does is it makes that acrylic seal on that top grain and makes it nice and shiny, and it also gets off a lot of excess that might be on the surface, excess dye I mean. Now you can see me, I'm lining out this pig suede. I decided I was going to line the inside of each of these straps with pig suede because this is going to be on armor, and I didn't want to do anything that would risk scratching the armor. So I thought a nice soft suede lining would be very, very beneficial for this project. Thank you, Nosferatu. But yeah, there I am looking at it. You can see that shine just looks spec-freaking-tacular. But now you can see me, I'm doing the prep work for the stitching. The worst thing about hand sewing is that you have to punch out every single stitching hole before you can get to the sewing. And I actually didn't record a single bit of me sewing this, but sewing is hard to record. It's infamously hard to record, so give me a break. I'll do better in the future. I'll be sure to record a lot more of these things. And here I am doing the edges on each of these guys. Pretty important. They always say you judge a leather worker by their edges. That's because the edges is the one thing that's hard to like automate. It's something that if you want a good edge, you have to put the work in to do. It's they make tens of different models of burnishing machines, but none of them really beat the hand burnishing technique. And here I'm actually not doing my best work here. I was using the biggest notch available, and even though that gave a very smooth edge, it also compressed that edge down a bit too much, so in the future I kept from doing that. But here I am beating that stitching like I said earlier. That's going to make sure no thorns and no good, bad, spiky things pull out your stitching. That stitching came out really nice. It was actually very time consuming. And even though it looks like it just on camera, it's just done, but it took probably a week for me to sew those straps together. And here I am showing off this brass hardware because the client here, they wanted to have brass hardware to kind of match that old-timey, rustic, medieval aesthetic. And I wanted to try and get a more natural antique. So I've got all these rivets set, and that really does it for the harness. Here I am making this little guitar strap design that I made in order to get the harness to attach to the scabbard, or rather the scabbard to the harness. It works a lot like a guitar strap, as you'll see here later. The straps of my harness kind of weave back and forth into this contraption I made, a lot like a guitar strap, and that's what I'm doing right now. Is I'm punching out all of the oblong shaped holes so that I can slide that strap into each of those back and forth, back and forth. And here I am, I'm kind of being stupid cutting this out with this little dingy razor blade. Not that it isn't doing a good job, it's just really hard to cut through thick leather. Nowadays I like to use a rotary cutter if I can, and then I'll just do the fine cutting with a box cutter like this. So now I'm again very indulgent with this this piece of footage when I'm doing my pre-edging, my edge beveling. I really like to record myself cutting out these big stupid worms. I think it's pretty satisfying to watch. I mean, look at how it just kind of rolls off that leather like a nice delicious piece of spaghetti. And I'm doing the top on here. You always want to do both the top and the bottom, because you can really imagine, okay, again, the reason I'm doing this is so that I can slick the edges a bit better. This is like the prep work, because if you don't do this, the corners of your leather, it kind of, you know, naturally once you cut into leather, you have a square edge, basically. This kind of makes it more of a triangular edge, rather, or maybe like, I don't even know what shape, half of a pentagon, I guess, where you've got three kind of corners. Once you put your slicker to it, it just lays down better. And if you don't do that, the corners of your leather fold up onto the leather, and it looks just terrible. So this is how you avoid that kind of a look, and this is what gives you that professional edge. So definitely a necessary thing if it's a type of leather that you can do this with. Otherwise, there's other techniques that you can do on like chrome tan leather. And here's that completed piece, all sealed up and dyed. You can see that shine just looks really nice once you give it a good buff. And here I am again, I know, very, very overdone, indulgent. I have so much footage of me beveling these corners out. I'm telling you, it just looks too good. Look at that. The worms just fall right off of the leather. Very good, very delicious, very awesome. We love it. What these are the inserts for the scabbard. So my shortcomings with this project, the scabbard was completely overdone, completely try hard overdone. And even though I think it looks pretty darn good aesthetically, functional wise, there's a few issues which I'll get into later. There's one big mistake with this project which I'll be very honest about here later when we get to it. But the big thing that I really shouldn't have done, I made this thing way too thick. This scabbard is several layers of about 10-ounce leather. The idea, and I think it did come out good looking in execution, but like I said, functional wise, it just didn't come out very good. The idea is that you would have, yes, thank you, Nosferatu. The idea is that you would have these 3 layers all compressing into each other on either side, giving a nice 3D effect with the insert on the inside, the 2 bits kind of coming over and getting sewn over the insert, making that centerpiece puff out on either side, and then that welt on the inside protecting the blade from cutting through. But here I am, I'm working on this strap that's going to keep there's 3, you'll see later, there's 3 straps that go and connect that little guitar strap attacher to the scabbard and henceforth to the harness. And so you need to have something in there that's going to keep those straps from moving around up and down the harness so that it just kind of stays in place. And that's what this strap does. But yeah, here I am, I'm dyeing it, and you saw I beveled it again. Love that beveling footage. It's kind of a joke here. I had so much of this chocolate dye because of this project. Everyone at work was bullying me because I was buying so much of it, and because I had so much of it, I was doing not only this project, but a lot of the things I was making at the time I was making in that chocolate dark brown color. But here I am sealing the strap again. You'll see me seal and dye and buff like tens of times, as everything is made out of veg tan and there's no corners cut. I didn't get any pre-dyed leather for this project. I did it all by hand, completely custom, and I had a lot of time in this thing. I think this thing overall was a 3-month project. But here's that footage showing how that strap kind of inserts, and you'll see, yeah, it's like a band area. It kind of weaves back and forth for 3 straps to kind of attach. But here I am, I'm applying this barge. Now, barge is the most popular contact cement in leathercraft. It bonds very well to the rough side of leather. What you see me doing here, actually, though, is I'm applying it temporarily to the top grain of the leather. I'm just putting the insert on that top grain, which I'm going to then compress to the dyed outer bit to kind of get those 3 layers on either side, which you'll see what I mean here. So here's the foolish thing I did. I really should have used the bottom grain. I really should have fused the bottom grain to the insert and therefore left the top grain, the smooth side, touching the blade on the inside on either side. I had this is kind of a sin in scabbard and knife sheath making. I had the rough out, meaning the bottom grain, the part that's touching all the muscle and the tendon of the cow. I left that being the thing that touches the inside, on the inside of the scabbard, that touches the sword. And what that means is, because it's so rough in there, it causes a lot of friction trying to pull the sword in and out, which might sound like a good thing, right? It's not going to fall out. Thing is, this, between the thickness of the scabbard and how rough it was on the inside, this sword was, for a whole week, impossible to pull in and out on your own. I had to kind of go back and forth getting that sword in and out to the point where I just completely burnished it smooth on the inside. That was the only way I could get it loose enough to be able to pull out more easily. Big mistake on my end. You never want to have rough out on a scabbard, but like I said, the client was well aware. This is my first time ever tackling something so ambitious. I'd never made a scabbard before. You can kind of see it coming together. There's what I mean when I have 3 layers of 10-ounce leather together on each side, and then I have that welt on the top there that's going to get sewn in between. This is a side tangent I forgot to remove from the video playlist when I sent it to my editor here. This is just a tooling practice I did. I made this little awesome swagger gangster SpongeBob. Here's that dragon, like I said. After I did that warm-up, I got straight to the meat of it, and I got these printable sheets and put it on my printer. It works a lot like a temporary tattoo, where you case and wet the leather, you put it on there and apply a bit of pressure, and once you peel it off, that design stays there just long enough for you to carve it into the leather. And I flipped it over, and what you see me doing now is I'm putting a bunch of masking tape on the back of that leather. What this does for tooling, right, it keeps that tooling, because you're beating into it, you're carving it, you're stretching the leather in all sorts of ways. That masking tape on the back is what's going to keep it from distorting too much, so that once you put it, the piece up against wherever it needs to sew into, wherever it needs to go, it doesn't stretch it out so bad that it isn't going to fit. So there I am peeling off that design, and I did the worst, most job trying to record myself tooling. I'll try and do better in the future. You can't tell what the hell I'm doing, but basically I'm taking my thumb and my middle finger and my index finger, and I'm using this swivel knife, trying to swivel that barrel around, getting that line work of that dragon in and done on that patch. But yeah, there it is. You can see, you gotta kind of carve it out. That's how you get that depth then, right? You need to have lines actually carved into the leather so you can go back and beat it down here later, which you'll see after I seal an antique gangster SpongeBob. He's looking very snazzy. I'll post that one. I don't think I ever posted that to my Instagram. Maybe I'll do it on my YouTube Shorts. But that one came out really good. That one came out real good. I like that SpongeBob a lot. But now here I am cutting out that patch that I just carved out, and then I'm going to further carve into it and get that depth in with a beveler and all that, and you'll see what I mean, kind of. I did record a bit of that, but I didn't record a lot of this tooling because I kind of got fed up with it, because I wasn't doing a very good job, I'll admit it. Here I am, I'm beveling into the leather. What I'm doing, you can kind of see what I'm doing what they call raising the crown, where you see those parts that are raised up and the parts that are smoothed down. That's what I'm doing. I'm compressing one part of that leather down to raise the other bits up, and that's what gives it that nice depth. And then I painted over it with some acrylic paint. And here's the terrible worst part of this project, trying to sew through this much leather and how thick it is. I went through so many needles. I broke an entire pack of needles trying to sew this thing. Complete nightmare. You can see I'm really crashing out right now. But I got through it in the end, and it did look pretty good. You can see that thing's about, oh, I don't know, 1.25 inches thick. Very, very, I mean, it's very heavy duty. But by God, was it very, very tedious and hard to sew through that. And that's about all the footage I got of me creating it. It really came together in the end. You can see all of those 3 straps going through and holding that scabbard in place. And then there's a little scabbard, or a little strap, over the brass hilt of the blade that I didn't record me making, that kind of pops over and keeps it inside. But that is about, yeah, that's about it. I'm very proud of it. That's the old sheath, and there's the new one. I hope you guys enjoy the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It was a good, challenging build this time around. Very awesome. I had to make this thing way before I even got my hands on this big, awesome workshop that I put all my time and money into making. This was one of those projects that really gave me the inspiration and the merit, the motivation to get to where I am now. And hopefully we'll be able to tackle more big projects like this in the future and record cool, sick, awesome videos about them. Thank you to the 5 Yum Yums for fueling and producing this whole ordeal. And I hope that we'll be able to make more videos in the future of this caliber. And thank you for clicking on the video, and thank you for watching the video. Editor, this is the point where you can cut the video. Bye-bye!